I know the first thing somebody's going to say when they see the title of the video is that PC handhelds and gaming laptops aren't in the same category. They shouldn't be compared, or it's an unfair comparison either in favor of or against PC handhelds or even laptops. But the way I see it is that they both serve the function of gaming portably. And as things currently stand, a gaming laptop might just be a better purchase than to go out and buy a PC handheld. Because looking at some of the laptops you can get these days for roughly the same price as a gaming laptop, it might push you in the direction of getting a gaming laptop because it might provide you a much better experience. And on top of that, considering how expensive some of these PC handhelds have been as of late, it makes you wonder how better spent could this money be if you look at some alternative options. There is one fairly large caveat though. If you wanted to get a gaming laptop near the price of, let's say, an original Ally Z1 Extreme, about $600 to $700, that's going to be a pretty tough spot to find a halfway decent gaming laptop that will appreciably perform better than the Z1 Extreme found in the Ally, which is still amazing. You know, the Z1 Extreme holds up quite well, but finding a brand new gaming laptop that manages to fit all that criteria while still maintaining a decent budget without pushing yourself into the territory of something like an Ally X at $800 or $900, you could pretty much find any gaming laptop around that price point that would perform better. But the point is to not spend the same amount of money for a better experience. The goal is to spend less money to get a better experience. And the best way to achieve that is unfortunately having to go through the used market. Some people might not exactly feel comfortable with doing that, but I've had plenty of experiences on eBay that were absolutely fantastic, and I've had a few where I had to contact support and it was handled in a few days, and I was able to either get a full refund and keep the item or send the item back and I was able to get a full refund. Zero issues, even on items that say no returns. eBay has amazing buyer protections. So it's important to note at the specifics of what you want to be looking for. As more and more modern titles demand for RTX grows, needing something with RTX as a bare minimum is the necessity. So I would say starting with a base floor of an RTX 2060 should be quite doable. Looking at some comparative benchmarks, the Z1 Extreme performs nearly identically to an RTX 2050, but it hyper depends on the form factor, because laptops come in many different flavors, thicknesses, and configurations, which is important to note because that can dramatically change how your laptop performs. I would look at specific benchmarks for the laptop you're looking for, because in this particular instance, the RTX 2050 looks like it performs nearly identically to the Z1 Extreme, but then compare it to this Microsoft Surface Laptop Studio with the 3050 Ti. On paper, it should be significantly faster than the RTX 2050, especially being a newer generation, having more VRAM, being a much better card in general, should lend it to being significantly better than the Z1 Extreme. But in a lot of cases, it's only by a few percentiles. But I've also seen it be able to perform quite a bit better. Like, for example, in Forza Horizon, it gets roughly 50 FPS for the Z1 Extreme and 87 FPS for the 3050 Ti, which is fantastic. Just to drive the point home though, it is super dependent on what laptop you get. So it is incredibly important for you to look at specific benchmarks for the laptop you are looking at. But as I mentioned before, just to give you an idea, a bare minimum of an RTX 2060 is needed for the vast majority of modern titles, because the 2050 is just terrible. Don't buy it. If you're gonna buy a laptop with a 2050 in it, just buy a Z1 Extreme equipped handheld, because that is gonna perform almost exactly the same. Outside of the 2060 though, 2070 should be more attainable at that price range. 3050s and 3060s should all be quite attainable at the price range of between $400 to $600 at most I would recommend paying, because at that point, you're paying very similar prices to brand new handhelds, which is the goal, to spend a little bit less than those to get significantly better performance. For me personally, I went down the route of getting this Electronics Mag 15. It has an RTX 2070 Max-Q and a Core i7-9750H, which is the one major downside to this computer. This processor is from 2019 or 18, if I remember correctly, and it's fine, but it is clearly holding back the processor quite a bit. This was during Intel's sort of lazy era where AMD wasn't super major competition quite yet, and Intel could get away with just releasing the same thing over and over and over again with slight tweaks here and there, maybe a couple extra cores, but functionally it was the same thing. Later on, they released other versions of this laptop with more modern processors, but I settled on this one in particular because of the fact that it was just under $400 at $375. And for a 2070 i7, half a terabyte of storage that can be upgraded, and 16 gigabytes of RAM that can also be upgraded, having fairly decent battery life, a full mechanical laptop keyboard, frankly, I think this was quite a good purchase for $375. I have pretty much been able to play every single one of my games at 1080p ultra settings and never even had to think about the frame rate. Most games run in excess of 60 plus FPS to the point where I don't even notice it anymore. Except for Black Ops 6. That game is weird. I'm not entirely sure why, but that game kind of runs not fantastic. In order to maintain a consistent 60 FPS, the game has to be on all low, which is interesting. I can play Modern Warfare 3 at 1080p high and still have like 70, 80 FPS while I'm playing, and it runs no issue, but Black Ops 6 just struggles for some reason. Could be a driver thing. I could just have to reinstall the game, maybe recompile shaders, but for some reason Black Ops 6 is the only game where that happens on. Outside of that, it runs fantastic. 50% of most eBay purchases is based on timing. You genuinely do have to be quite a bit patient and sort of wait for the perfect time to strike to get your perfect laptop deal. If you're hunting for specific laptops, sure, you might be able to find a Zephyrus G16 on it, but depending on whether or not you're okay spending more money, it might not be a perfect deal or might not be one that you would want in the condition that it's in. So you're best off just waiting and striking the moment you find the perfect deal. I know I sat on the budget for buying this laptop for like a month waiting for something that fit all of my criteria. In retrospect, I focused a little bit too much on the GPU when I should have realized the CPU might be a little bit more of an issue, considering, like I said, it's a 9th gen Intel laptop processor, so it's not exactly bleeding fast. Ideally, if I was going something of that vintage, something from AMD would have been a little bit better. With the Z2 Extreme getting in the hands of some recent YouTubers, like ETA Prime did an amazing video breaking down and showing off the performance results, comparing it to the Z1 Extreme, which you can extrapolate some of the test results I've shown here. And if you do that, you'll actually notice that most of the laptops except the 2050 still outperform the Z2 Extreme by almost a similar margin, a little bit less, but that is still with very early drivers and very little in terms of optimization from developers and Microsoft in general. The original Z1 went through the similar hiccups when it first came out. It was kind of weird in terms of performance. There was minor issues here and there, and most of those issues aren't really things anymore, but it's important to note that this is the beginning of a new PC handheld generation, so give it enough time in AMD fine wine, this processor could age potentially quite well. And there are other few caveats that PC handhelds have over traditional gaming laptops, especially portability, battery life in some cases. Especially since I recommend going used, battery life might be something that you might have to really take in consideration. Though if you're familiar with early generation PC handhelds, you might see the battery life on most gaming laptops as not a huge deal. Also, most gaming laptops will be significantly louder than most PC handhelds. I would love to hear what you guys think about this down below. Has this video helped you go in a certain direction? Has it changed your mind and really made you consider getting a gaming laptop over upgrading your PC handheld? I would love to hear what you guys think about this down below. Don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. All the other social media garbage down below. And last but not least, have a wonderful day.